Hey guys, welcome back. Thanks for joining me for another video. So in this week's video, I wanted to talk about why people fear change and how to really handle change when it comes up, because it's going to come up, whether it's good change that you wanted to have happen and you're making the choice to have this change, take place in your life, or something bad that's happened and something that you didn't expect to happen, but it's happening and we have to kind of roll with the punches. So to start off, I think it's important to kind of go to the beginning with this and start with our minds, how our minds work. Because when you understand how your mind really works, how your brain works, then it's easy to understand why we do some of the things that we do. So as we're growing up, our core beliefs of how we think the world should be, how life should go, are developed. So you can call it your blueprint, you can call it programming. It's where our core beliefs are actually formed. And this is why they say when children are young that they're adaptable and that change comes that they do well with change and it comes easy to them because their core beliefs, their blueprint is still being set in stone. Their subconscious is still wide open and is still taking in information. When we become adults, that door kind of is closed, right? So this is why they say it's harder to teach an old dog new tricks. So when we're children, we're more adaptable, we're more flexible because our blueprint is still being made. When we're adults, our blueprint has already been formed, so to speak. So to change that, it's doable, but it's a lot harder to do, and we fight that change. Another way a core belief can be formed, either as an adult or as a child, is by an experience. So either an experience or repetition of someone verbally saying something to you over and over again causes a core belief. So if something really abusive happened to you, an experience maybe once that was really traumatic, or even if it happened over and over again, you're going to form some kind of a belief based off of that experience. And it's the same thing with repetition. So if you were around, a mother or a sister or an uncle that constantly, every single day, told you were worthless, didn't listen to you, didn't validate you, didn't see you, didn't have empathy for you, whatever it was, you're going to have a core belief based off of that behavior, based off of that repetition. Or you're going to have a core belief of what you think of yourself. So maybe the "I'm not enough" phrase is played over and over again in your mind, and you have low self-esteem and low confidence because the repetition over and over by the people that you had surrounded yourself with as a child was a negative story that they were giving you. So now if you were programmed to have a belief that you should be married by the time you're 30, that you should have kids at this age, that you need to make this much money in order to be successful, that, all men are pigs or all women are gold diggers, whatever the belief is, and it can be a lot of different beliefs. But when you have these beliefs and then life doesn't match that belief, that's where we get depressed. That's where we become fearful. That's where we become stressed, is because life isn't mirroring what I had in my mind as a blueprint as the way life should go. And that is huge. For me, that was absolutely huge, because when I realized, wow, a lot of my suffering actually came from the fact that I was telling myself this story and of the way life should be, that I should be married and I should have these kids and I should do this and this and this. And when life didn't mirror that experience, and when change happened, like I was getting divorced, or if I lost a job, or just something that happened that was out of my control and it didn't mirror this blueprint that I had laid out for myself, that's when I became fearful. That's when I became stressed. That's where we get anxiety. That's where we get depression. It's when all of these things start to happen, is when the blueprint of our lives doesn't match the reality. So the next reason is your ego does not like uncertainty. And this is, again, really important information, because you have to understand why you're fighting something so bad. You're fighting it because of the blueprint that you have, that, life isn't mirroring what you wanted to have happen. And number two is your ego doesn't accept change. It wants to keep you comfortable. It doesn't want you venturing out. It's going to tell you all the reasons why this good change that's happening is bad for you and that you shouldn't take this opportunity, or why, even this change that you didn't want to have happen is happening, and what are all the terrible things that are going to go wrong because, someone's leaving you, or, a company is getting bankrupt and now you have to switch jobs. And this is one of the biggest reasons why, amongst other reasons, why people stay stuck in relationships for way longer than they should. Aside from self-worth and self-respect and all of those things, it's this fear of the unknown. It's this fear of change happening that forces people to stay stuck in relationships. It forces people to stay stuck in jobs that they hate every single day because they fear change. They just fear that little tiny step that it would take to just get out of their comfort zone, and they're allowing their ego to play over and over again all the things that are going to go wrong, and how they're never going to find another job, and they're not capable, and they're not good enough, and you need to stay where you are because you're very comfortable, and you have this salary, or you're comfortable in this relationship, and yep, it's not everything you would want it to be, but you know what, at least you have a partner and you're not single. These are the stories that you're telling yourself, and it's because that part of your mind, that ego part, is forcing you to stay stuck because it doesn't like change. It doesn't want you to grow. We're human beings, and human beings are programmed. We are creatures of habit. So most of us, I'm sure, wake up every day and we have a routine of what we do every day. We wake up, we hit snooze 5 times, or we wake up and we make ourselves a cup of coffee, and then we go take a shower, and then we do that. We're creatures of habit. And when you become a creature of habit, when change happens, especially when change happens that you didn't see coming and it's unexpected, it is going to knock you off your game because, again, it was unexpected. You weren't going really with the flow of life and embracing every single day. You were very fixated on, like, this is the way life goes and this is what I do. And when something comes and kind of knocks you out, a change happens because it's going to happen because that's life. We sometimes don't know how to handle it. So when life happens and something hits us and we didn't expect it coming, and now it's here and it's forcing us to move, even though we didn't want to move. We were nice and comfortable in our own little world, and now change is going to happen. What do? And one of the things that is really necessary is you just have to embrace it. The more you fight it, the more you try to go against it, the worse you're going to end up being. And it's perfectly fine to mourn the loss of something, whether that's a job, whether that's a relationship, whether that's whatever the transition is. Even good change, we sometimes mourn the loss. When we get married, sometimes we fear, obviously, the unknown of that relationship, but we are also, mourning the loss of our single selves. There's a part of us that was by ourselves for a while, and now we're going into this relationship and things are changing. And yes, it's good change, but it's still scary and it makes us fearful at times. But when it's good change, we tend to still embrace it in some way, shape, or form and ride the wave. And we have to learn how to do that with change that happens in our lives that is unexpected, that maybe we didn't even want to have happen. We have to learn how to embrace that. And the first way to really embrace it is to say, you know what, even though this isn't what I wanted to have happen, I'm going to really look at what are the positives that could come out of this situation. And for me, when I was getting divorced and I was going through that transition and I was about to be a single mother, and I was, getting divorced and my child was very, very young, I had a lot of transitions happening in terms of selling a house and, moving and having no friends and family nearby and being by myself, many, many transitions. And one of the things that really got me through it is I said, you know what? This is an opportunity. This is a second chance. And it got me so excited for life that I was able to embrace or not even embrace, but really let go of any fear or self-doubt or worry or stress that I had. Of course, I had stressful times. Of course, there were nights that were like really terrifying. But what allowed me to really move through that feeling was the excitement that I was given a second chance. I was given an opportunity that I would have never had I stayed in that marriage and in that relationship. And even though I didn't want the divorce to happen at the time, I'm so thankful that it happened. And even in those brief moments of like sadness and stress and worry and all of those normal feelings that come up, because I'm a human being as well, But what allowed me to really let go of all of that was, again, that feeling of, wow, I can do this all over again. I can work on myself. I can focus on just me and my son. I can create whatever life I ever wanted to have happen. And there are people that are watching this video that are in, tougher situations, whether you were financially dependent on someone or whether you've been with someone for like 35 years, and each situation is different, but try to look at the blessing. Try to look at what the positives are going to be with this change happening that maybe you didn't ask for, but that's happening regardless. One of the other reasons why sometimes we fear change, and I think that this happens really, really often, is we have a lack in trusting ourselves. So a lot of the times when change happens and it's something that we didn't want to have happen, but it's taking place, we don't trust life. And when you don't trust life, and that even though something is happening that you didn't want to have happen, that it's actually in your best interest, and it's for your higher good, when you don't trust the process, when you don't trust life like that, that means that you don't trust yourself. That means that you don't trust that you're going to be okay. That means that you don't trust that this is your opportunity to take responsibility for your life and do whatever you want and create whatever life you want. So when you don't trust the process, when you don't trust life, even when life cuts you at your knees and you're perfectly happy the way you are, and now everything is all over the place and you have to start all over again. Believe me when I tell you, I know what that feels like, and it's not an easy thing to go through. But I will say that if you can see the blessing, if you can see bits and pieces of the positive that is going to come out of this situation, and if you trust the process, and if you trust life, and you trust yourself, and know that regardless of what happens, I'm going to be okay and I will get through this, and repeating that over and over again, that will get you through a lot of tough times. Now, when we don't trust life and we don't trust the process and we think that life is out to get us, or, God's not listening to us, or, what did we do wrong? Then we become a victim. And when we become a victim, we're, again, not seeing the positives of a situation. And don't get me wrong, sometimes it's hard to see the positives when you're struggling, and when you've just lost your job, or you've just lost your savings, or your husband just left you, or whatever the situation is. There are going to be tough days. There's going to be stressful days. There's going to be days where you're like, why is this happening to me? That's normal to feel those feelings, and I'm validating those feelings, and I even validated them for myself. But what allowed me to not stay stuck in that feeling was I knew I was being a victim. I knew that regardless of whatever I was going through, even the toughest day, that I was being a victim, and that there was a blessing of this tough day. And when the blessing is that those tough days and those tough moments allowed me to become a stronger person. And again, in the midst of those days, I would have handed over all of that strength to just have an easy day. But now, when you get through and you're on the other side, you see that everything had to happen the way it did in order for you to be the person that you are today. So all of those tough days that I had to go through, and the days where I just was crying, or I was struggling, or whatever it is that I was experiencing, I had to go through that because I had to experience that in order to build that strength within myself. If you never experience hard times, first of all, you won't be able to be equipped for when life really knocks you down at your knees. And that's going to happen. And I'm sure we all know those people where, something happens to them and it's not catastrophic. It's not the craziest thing in the world, and they don't know how to handle it. And it's because they haven't built that muscle within themselves. And then we see other people that have gone through ridiculously crazy, terrible things in life, and they still wake up every single day with a smile on their face. I mean, it's because they have worked that muscle for so long. They've had to overcome so much. They've had to get out of their comfort zone time and time again. They've had to look fear in the face and say, I have to keep moving. I can't be fearful. I have to just get out of my comfort zone and push myself further and further every single day until I get through this transition. It's really like going to war. The last thing is, in order to really let go of the fear of the unknown, you have to let go of control. You have to let go of needing to know when something's going to happen, how it's going to happen, having control over every single moment. And it goes back to what I said, you have to trust the process. Work hard every single day to do what you need to do to make that change happen, whether you're making the change happen yourself and you're going after the job you've always wanted, or you're working on yourself to create like healthy relationships in your life, whatever it is. But you have to let go of all need of control. And that control comes, again, from that ego. It comes from that ego side of you, is that you don't need to control how things are going to happen in your life. If you just work every single day on pushing yourself through all the fear, through all the worry and the stress that might come up because this change is happening, and you just keep pushing through all those hard days, all those terrible moments that you might have to experience, when you get on the other side, you will realize that, wow, I didn't need to try to have so much control over how this was going to happen or when it was going to happen. It just happens. That's why I always say, just focus on yourself. Just worry about yourself. Don't worry about the when. Don't worry about the how. Just know that whatever it is that you want for yourself, you absolutely can create. So I hope that has helped you guys understand fear and the fear of change a little bit better. If you haven't already subscribed to this channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to also click on the notification bell as well. If you are interested in any private coaching, I will list all of that information down below, and I will see you next week.